guys, so today I'm going to be showing you what I use for my MP40 class. So for the muzzle, I use the recoil booster because it gives you great fire rate. Also, it's the best muzzle to use for every single SMG in Warzone. For the barrel, I use the VDD 189 and short because it gives you great damage range, bullet velocity, and limb damage, which is great and stuff. And I think it's the best barrel to use for the MP40. For the optic, usually I use the slave reflector because it gives you great magnification, small rectangular sight, and precision sight picture. But this time, I'm going to go ahead and use the Cross-Nick ISM-1M because it gives you great in-on sight speed and alternate iron sight construction. For the stock and stuff, I'm going to go ahead and use the remove stock because it gives you great hip fire accuracy and movement speed. But if you want to use something else, I suggest you use the Cross-Nick 30D floating because it's a great stock too to use. But I'm going to go ahead and put the remove stock on. For the underbarrel, I'm going to go ahead and use the M1941 hand stock because it gives you great vertical recoil control and horizontal recoil control, which is great when aiming at someone. I think it's a good underbarrel. For the magazine, I use the Garanco 45 round max because it gives you great recoil control, movement speed, and sight speed and fire rate, which is great because it gives you mobility, aiming stability, and it helps you move around a lot faster than the 64 round jumps. For the ammunition, I use the Frangaboo because it gives you inflict wounding effect. For the rear grip, I use the tape gear because it gives you aim stability, movement speed, and weapon swap quickness. And for perk, the first perk I use Mark because it gives you precision concealment. And for perk number 2, I use Fast Melee because it gives you melee quickness. And that is my MP40 class right there. So my fans, you might be wondering what I use for my H4 Blixen class. So for the muzzle, I use the recoil booster because it gives you great fire rate. And for the barrel, I use the Bergerstrom 17 FD because it gives you recoil control and accuracy, bullet velocity, and flinch resistance, which gives you great stability and mobility, which is great for SMGs. For the optic, I use the slave reflector because it gives you great magnification, small rectangular sight, and precision sight picture. But if you want to use a different optic, I suggest you use the monocurve reflector because it gives you great magnification, circular lens sight, and precision sight picture. But I'm going to go ahead and put the slave reflector on. For the stock, I use the remove stock because it gives you great movement speed, sprinter fire speed, and sight speed, which is great for SMGs when moving around. For the underbarrel, I'm going to go ahead and put the SG98 compact because it gives you great aim lock and movement speed and reduces scope sway and gun bob. I have to say this is the best underbarrel for the H4 Blixen. For the magazine, I use the Garanco 54 round max because it gives you great recoil control and accuracy, headshot damage, and sight speed, and magazine ammo capacity. This is the best magazine for the H4 Blixen, I have to say. And for the ammunition, I'm going to use the hollow point because it gives you great limb damage, which is good for SMGs. Had to say that it's a good ammunition to use. And for the rear grip, I use the tape grip because it gives you great aim stability, movement speed, weapon swap quickness, sprint and fire speed, which is the best rear grip. For the perk, I use Fleet because it gives you weapon swap quickness, movement speed. So, you might be wondering what I use for my Mark 5 class. So for the muzzle, I use the recoil booster because it gives you great fire rate. Once again, the best muzzle to use for every single SMG. For the barrel, I use the Mito D42 M04P because it gives you highly accurate and controllable bullet velocity, flinch resistance, and reduces scope sway and gun bob, which gives you great stability and mobility. Once again, I think this is the best barrel to use for the Mark 5. And for the optic, I use the slave reflector because it gives you great magnification, small rectangular sight, or precision sight picture. For the stock, I use the Mito FR because it gives you initial firing recoil recovery, and sight speed and movement speed. And if you want to use something else, I suggest you use the body HF40. It's a great stock to use too, and stuff besides the Mito FR. And for the underbarrel, I use the Mark V Stiletto because it gives you great in and outside speed and movement speed, which is great when moving around once again. And for the magazine, I use the Nabu 64 round jumps because it gives you hip fire accuracy, recoil control, magazine ammo capacity, which is great for mobility and stability, much more easier to carry and handle than the 48 round drums. And for the ammunition, I use the Frangable once again because it gives you that great inflict wounding effect. And for the rear grip, I use the Take Grip because it gives you great ammo stability, movement speed, weapon swap quickness, and sprint to fire speed. I think it's the best rear grip for every single SMG. For the perk, I use the Momentum because it gives you move speed after kills, which helps you move faster. And for perk number 2, I use the Quick because it gives you sprint speed. This is what I use for my Milano H21 class. So for the muzzle, I use the AGC suppressor because it gives you great sound suppression, vertical recoil control, bullet velocity, and effective damage range. This is the best muzzle to use for the Milano H21 class. And if you have a low-level Milano H21 build, I suggest you use the sound suppressor because that's the best build because it gives you sound suppression in outside speed, bullet velocity, and sprint to fire speed. But I'm going to go ahead and put the AGC suppressor on. For the barrel, I'm going to use the 10.6 Task Force because it gives you great effective damage range, bullet velocity, and strafe speed, which gives you great range, which means you can use it as an AR, which I think is awesome for an SMG. And for the underbarrel, I'm going to go ahead and use the SFOD Speed Grip because it gives you great sprinting move speed and horizontal recoil control, which is great for SMGs because it gives you great movement to move around and stuff. And for the magazine, I'm going to use the standard 55 round gun because it gives you great ammo capacity. And for the stock, I'm going to use the tactical stock because it gives you aim lock and movement speed, and that is my awesome Milano H21 class right there. What I use for my Modern Warfare MP5. So for the muzzle, I use the Monolithic suppressor because it gives you great sound suppression and damage range. This is the best muzzle to use for the MP5. And for the underbarrel, I use the Merc 4 grip because it gives you great recoil control and hip fire accuracy. And for the magazine, I use the 45 round max. The only thing I wish about the MP5 is it can give you more ammo, and it has a great magazine ammo capacity. And for the stock, I use the F-Tac Collapsible because it gives you great movement speed and outside speed, which is great for the MP5 and great for SMGs because it gives you great movement. And for the laser, I use the TAC laser because it gives you great in outside speed and aiming stability and aiming locking steadiness, and that's my MP5 class right there.